Hey everyone, this is Rocky from WeLearnChess.com. And in my last video, I mentioned a tactic that sometimes comes up in the Sicilian Dragon. And so I started to look at it, um, and I found out some interesting things, so figured I'd share them here. So if we go into a Sicilian Dragon, which starts out with these moves here, and then with this here, black often goes into a knight orf with a6. Or there's some other variations too. But if he plays g6, then it's a dragon. So one of White's ideas is often to put this bishop on e3. I'm sorry, and after Black fianchettos it, play the queen at d2 at some point and form this battery, and try to get rid of this dark square bishop because it's an important defender of the king side. And I was surprised at how often that move, bishop h6, doesn't actually work, either due to tactics or just because strategically it's not a good idea. And I do that almost every time I play this as white, so I was kind of surprised to find this out. So just a few things before we even get to that point. Sometimes black will try to play knight g4 to stop white from doing this, or at least make him lose a move. But here that's too fast. If black does it right away, actually white has this resource, bishop b5 check, and now no matter what black does, he's going to lose material. So while something like this is pretty easy, the queen could actually just take this right now because the bishop's pinned, and if the bishop takes, either knight could take. So that's one way to, that's a full piece. So actually the computer recommends, which looks strange, but to block the check this way, and now the bishop is still protecting the knight, but then white can play this here and win an exchange. Black has this important in-between move, attacking the queen, and then it kind of plays out like this. So if you look at the board here, white is up in exchange, although this is a little better for black than I think losing the clear piece, because at least he's got the bishop pair and white's got double pawns here. So still obviously better for white, but so it's important to remember that, because some people do play this too fast. So what black has to do first before playing knight g4 is to play bishop g7. And now if white were to be too quick here and play queen d2, then actually knight g4 is a great move, because now there's no way to really get rid of this or save this bishop. So I mean, I guess you could play bishop g5. That probably is a good idea, but now it's a little bit more difficult. You've got to use a couple more moves. So black is probably, I mean, according to the computer, it's already equalized, but it's a little bit more complicated. So you can avoid all that by playing f3 first. Okay, and then I guess black either castles or plays knight c6. So I'm not sure. I don't play the dragon myself, so I'm not sure what the most precise move order is according to theory. But then there's some interesting points here too. So let's just say, for example, we go right into this battery. If black were to castle here, then actually we have to be careful. So there's a lot of times you can make mistakes as white, and bishop a6 here is actually a big mistake, because you just lose a piece. So you have to take back, so your queen's under attack obviously, and then you lose the piece here. So that's no good. So let's say that you castle first. Oops. Okay. Or actually, another point I wanted to bring up here too was some lines with bishop c4. I used to play bishop c4 a lot in these opposite side castling Yugoslav attacks for white, but I found out sometimes that it was a little bit slow. I mean, it's still good to have the bishop over here because it's a good defender and whatever, but you have to be careful about how many moves you use. I mean, it's a good move, but let's just say, like, I don't know what the best moves are here for black, but let's just say, for example, something like this happens. Just castles here and rook c8, which is a common move. And then here you can still get into trouble, actually, because if you play this here, the bishop a6 move, it's still a blunder. Not because your knight would be hanging, because now you've got it protected by the rook, but now your bishop's hanging on c4. So I guess, yeah, this was probably more accurate. Well, this is bad here because you lose the bishop this way with check. So if this happens, then you would have to take first on g7. This is still bad for white, but that's a little bit less egregious. And then you lose the bishop this way here, unfortunately. So this is probably relatively best for white, but it's still not the way you want to play. So you have to be careful about how anxious you are to do this. So let's say, for example, we drop our bishop back so that it's not hanging these variations, and let's say black plays queen a5, and here again it's still bad, this is really amazing. I mean, that it can still be this bad. So it's actually black can get an advantage either way with bishop takes or knight takes, but again, knight takes is better. So let's just say, for example, okay, well, let's say we try this here. Black has this in-between move. The problem is that this comes with check, and so you'd have to take with the c-pawn, otherwise you open this up for, and actually the queen can take this on the next move anyway because the knight's pinned. But yeah, now if we look at the board, that's just what, a full piece, right? Yeah, it's just a full piece, and white's king's already open a little bit, and it's under attack. So again, still not possible to do that move. So I guess the lesson is that you have to be careful, really careful how fast you play this move. So knowing that, you'd have to play king b1 first. That way, in these variations, at least that knight takes b3 wouldn't be with check. But the thing is, it's still probably not a good idea, because knight takes b3 would come with an attack on the queen. So that's probably what the problem's going to be here. So let's just make a move for black so the position kind of stays the same. And if we still do this, it's a little bit better, but it's still good for black. So the same variation where first you have to take this bishop, otherwise you're going to lose a piece. So yeah, knight takes b3 is still a move. It's the in-between shot here, and then you could play queen h6 to save your bishop, and yeah, it looks like, I guess, yeah, he would save his knight. Yeah, I guess it's better losing the exchange than the b6. The computer wants to take on f6, which is kind of funny. I mean, if it were me, I'd probably just do this, and this is actually not that good, because you're just down material. 2 pieces for the rook. Well, I guess it's arguable, debatable, I should say, but still, the whole problem was that white played this bishop h6 move too fast. So there's all these variations here where we had to be careful, and that was with bishop c4, but let's go back and play without bishop c4. So instead of having the bishop develop, so let's say we saw that we can't play this here because our knight is hanging. So let's say we castle first, and now we're in a different position because black's rook isn't on c8 yet, and there's nothing really attacking here. So let's see if, just for the sake of example here, if we can still do it, and the computer still doesn't like it, just for the same knight takes here. And the problem with this is that black has another in-between move, and he gets this pawn because he's attacking the queen. So after g takes f3 and king takes, then you just lost a pawn. And I mean, you did get rid of the bishop, and I guess white opened up the g file, so that's something. But so this is relatively better than all those other situations that we just saw, but still not a good idea. So this is actually a lot trickier than I thought. I mean, I've probably fallen into these positions so many times, and my opponent just didn't see those in-between moves with the knight. But I'm sure that as I hopefully continue to move up, that my opponents will see that more frequently. So so that brings up the question of whether we should just take this knight on c6 so that we can go ahead with one of our ideas and do this h6 move. But the problem with taking on c6 is that black could open up the b file. I mean, I guess bishop takes is also pretty good, but if you open up the b file, then he's going to have, you know, quicker attacks on my king. So it's usually not a good idea to take on c6 unless there's a specific reason to do it. So let's see if we can find a spot where we can play this bishop h6 move under good circumstances. So we saw that we have to develop first. So king b1 is probably a better move, and this is often a useful move in these opposite side castling lines anyway, just because whenever I don't play king b1 later in the game, like if I get too anxious and start attacking, then just ends up being a problem. Like not because necessarily I'll lose, but sometimes I'll have an attack going, and then because the king's on c1, sometimes black's queen can force a queen trade by some kind of check on this diagonal, and then attacking the queen and checking or something. So it can stop the attack and sometimes mess up my pawn structure, or a lot of times too, if you're going to push all these pawns on the king side here, and your attack doesn't work, and then somehow he forces a queen trade or whatever, then you can end up in a bad end game where you just have a bunch of weak pawns. So okay, let's see. Again, I don't play this for black. I know there's like this Chinese dragon, which I think is rook b8, and then there's rook c8, and there's queen a5. So let me just play some moves that I tend to see. I tend to see rook c8 a lot, and I see queen a5 a lot. So still here, probably not a good idea, but let's take a look. And again, just this in-between move is still going to be the downfall here. This queen takes f3, so we can skip that. So I guess actually a better plan than trying to go after the bishop is either to pawn storm right away, or find a place for this bishop. And I've noticed that in a lot of these games, I'm starting to like putting my bishop on e2, which looks really weird. But the point is that eventually, when white gets this this pawn push up to h5, sometimes black will like to take it with the knight. And if you got your bishop on h2, sometimes it can help break open the file by taking the knight. A lot of times you'll sack the rook too on h5 to break open the g file, so or the h file, depending on what's going on. So, but yeah, that's what the computer likes here. This is Stockfish 6, so it's the newest one available as of today's recording. And a lot of these lines are positive for white actually without doing the bishop h6 move. So this is again what I was saying in the beginning of the video, how surprised I was that this is just such a natural idea to try to get rid of this. And it is harder to checkmate when black still has this bishop here. But so let's see here. If we play bishop b2, and let's say a6 is common, and it was also the best move there according to Stockfish. So still probably this is no good due to the in-between move that we saw. Yeah, that's going to be that same line where you see knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes f3, so we still can't do that. So as long as our queen's on d2 and we have a pawn on f3, it's not going to be a great situation, because he's gonna get a pawn. I guess after that pawn moves out of f3, if it does, then the situation would change. So let's make a common move here, g4, and b5 usually comes pretty fast from black too. And then there's different lines here where you could play h4 or g5. So let's start with h5. Looks pretty menacing. And a lot of times I've noticed what black will do in these is that he'll actually take on d4. I mean, these aren't the best moves necessarily, because black could have even played d5 earlier, and I think a lot of people consider that the best move. But yeah, the computer actually likes this knight takes. But let's leave the knights on the board just because we're going to keep looking at that bishop h6 move for the purposes of this video. So what other move here? Queen c7, getting some pressure on the c file. And let's just say computer really wants me to play a3, and I guess the idea is to stop b4 or slow it down. It doesn't slow it down according to the computer. So what is this here? Okay, so black just wants to open up lines to the king, and yeah, I mean this is challenging for white. I mean, I really like to play this Yugoslav attack, but it really is like very few draws happen in these games. I mean, look at black's attacking pretty fast here, maybe even faster than white, so every move is really important. Let's say white goes ahead and plays h5. I don't think he can play g5 here. Actually, that would probably be a bad move, yeah. Oh, not for the reason that I thought. I was just thinking of taking the pawn, but that's not actually I mean, that's okay, but even better is h6 here. And then after the bishop drops back, wow, bishop f2. Yeah, the idea is that there's a mate in 2. He's trying to get away from the queen. So, oh, and actually that would have been, there's an interesting line here when the queen's on a5. So this actually hasn't come up in my games, but I just saw it before. So let's just say, for example, that these moves didn't happen. Let's say instead of b5, black had played this, and oops, and now he made the mistake of playing this g5 move. This is actually yeah, this here's a good example of when it's possible to take on c6. There's a purpose behind it. So the purpose behind it is to get out of the way of the bishop. So now h6 is the key move. And let's just say he drops back, which I think a normal human being would do. Then the problem here is bishop b6, and the queen's attacked, and you're also threatening a mate in too. So if you were to take this thing, whoops, then you just mate this way. And if he doesn't, I guess the only way would be probably bishop takes e4, because then after you do this, then you can block the check this way, but then you can just take the queen, among other things. So that's kind of a funny line with... It's not too related to the topic of the video. I guess I got off track, but there's so many tactics in these Sicilian lines. It's pretty crazy. Just spend hours looking at them, and trying to remember them in the game is is another story. So let's get back to the point or the video, which is we're still trying to find a place where we can play this bishop h6 move if possible. And I think I'm coming to the conclusion here that a lot of times maybe it's just not the best move. And I think the next question that brings to my mind, at least, is if we're not going to exchange off this bishop so early, then what's the plan of attack? That's probably the topic for another video. I have to spend a couple hours looking at that. Some patterns and ways to attack with the bishop still on the board, because I'm so used to it not being there. Yeah, this was really surprising to me, and how often it was a bad move. So a lot of times too, you'll see black will just make your life easier and take this knight, like I said. And then the nice thing is that if this knight ever moves, which it often does, not in this position, it wouldn't really make sense, I guess, but the knight will often move, and you'll be able to take the bishop anyway. So just make sure your king's on b1, because you don't want to get stuck in some weird situation where you get pinned to your king. But yeah, anyway, that's probably enough for this video. So I just wanted to show some patterns where it's a mistake for white to play bishop h6, and then also earlier a mistake for black to get too anxious trying to stop that move. So yeah, still not bad to have this battery, of course, but definitely pay attention for some of the tactics shown in this video, and hopefully it'll save you from getting into some sticky situations. Alright, I'll see you around.